Gather us in the lost and forsaken. Gather us in the blind and the lame.
All right, welcome back. Greetings. So we're back again, trying this out with the Yooper Farmer, trying to see if we can get this YouTube thing off the ground. For tonight, we are doing the ever popular Perdomo Lot 23. Another one of the cigars I got from a sampler pack, trying to find a new brand, although the Perdomo ones were ones that were recommended because of a very easy draw. A little secret about me, I judge a lot of a cigar based on its draw. I believe it should be nice and easy, not like you're trying to suck wet concrete up through a straw. So far, flavor's pretty good. Not a winner yet, not one that I'm going to say I'm going to only go for the Perdomo cigars, but I'm willing to give them a couple of tries and see how they are. As far as the drink tonight, it's going to be the ever famous KBIC Widowmaker. This is definitely one of the workhorse beers for me if I'm ever out going to a bar, especially in Michigan. And they have a bunch of random beers and whatnot. Usually I can trust my good old Cuna Brewing Company, the Widowmaker. It's nice, light, stout beer. Not too heavy, but nothing light, no IPA or anything crazy like that. And still quite tasty. So, what are we going to talk about this time around? Well, yep, I did just record the last video last night on October 30th, and this is October 31st, so happy Halloween. Although I have no delusions that either of these videos are going to make them out anytime soon. It's probably going to take me a couple of days. I haven't fully edited the last one, although I did learn from my mistakes as far as clearing more memory out of my phone. I thought I had enough memory cleared to record as long as I wanted to last time, but clearly I need to clear out some more memory. Luckily, the image looked pretty decent. I did notice, for those of you who are OCD, that the table here was kind of cockeyed a little bit to one side. So I fixed that and readjusted the camera. So it looks a little bit better this time around. And again, I didn't fully edit the first video, but it's one of those things. I do have time tonight to shoot another video, enjoy another cigar, and just kind of sit and talk and gossip and do some stream of consciousness stuff. So it is Halloween. We did not really take the kids out trick-or-treating with everything going on. It didn't seem wise. Plus, we ran off to go see Grandma and Grandpa to go visit them, so we're in the car most of the day. A lot of fun to do that, but also a lot of stress and very tiring for the kids. So we didn't really get out. Kind of unfortunate, but seeing the state of things and the times, not unexpected either. Other big happenings going on, not much. We are rapidly approaching the election coming up here. As many of you who maybe are going to watch this, I don't know what the election results are. I know who I want to win, but actually who does win is kind of anyone's guess. It's all up in the air. But a lot of people are watching this election specifically to see what the outcome is. Now again, I'm a prepper. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I'm not hunkering down in my bunker or suspecting that there's going to be the civil war on the 4th will be started. I don't think, Americans in general have the fortitude for that type of conflict, that type of confrontation. I do think on both sides we have people who are ready to hoot and holler and yell and scream. But as far as mobilizing anything that we traditionally know as a war, I just don't see it. Maybe that is the naive farm boy in me, the living in the backwoods, backcountry. I highly doubt it, if anything did happen, that it would get this far north. mostly due to just population density. We're not a lot of people up here. Could it happen? Again, I do love a good conspiracy theory, and I've been listening to a lot of them recently. And yeah, I suppose it could. The powder keg is primed, as they say. And either way, no matter who wins the election, half the country is going to be upset at the other half, which does not sound like a good combination. But we'll see what happens here in a couple of days. So any other political issues coming up? I do have to be more careful with what I talk about when it comes to politics. I thought I had what was the official acceptance letter to my new job with the state of Michigan, but I got the actual official acceptance congratulations letter. So now that I'm working with the state, I do have to be kind of careful with some of my political views. But I'm used to that. One of the downsides of having a career in public health, or excuse me, as a public servant, is you are scrutinized a lot more than any other profession. A lawyer can come out and say he approves of this or doesn't approve of that, hoot and holler, getting involved in protests and demonstrations. As public servants, legally a lot of times our hands are tied. We're not allowed to strike. We're not allowed to certain forms of demonstrations, protests. We really can't participate in a lot of that or make our viewpoint known, because as a public servant, we usually represent the people. We are funded by tax dollars. So we can't really be going out and campaigning while we're at work. Where other places of employment, they could care less if you campaign. It's always been an interesting thing being a public servant all my life. There's a lot of rules that we have to follow. Some of them are very written laws and rules, and others are more of those gentleman agreements. So the idea that a public servant is to give of themselves for their community. It always astonishes me when you hear about responders or other public servants who put their safety ahead of doing their job, and they get chastised for it. There's been a bunch of examples recently. One of the ones that kind of keyed it off was a gentleman who had mental issues, was walking around knifing people in New York subways. The gentleman went to go knife someone, and he was overpowered by a civilian while two officers watched and waited until the civilian pretty much detained the guy before they jumped in to arrest him. The gentleman who was the civilian, who got stabbed a few times while taking this guy down, sued the law enforcement officers, saying it was their duty to put their lives at risk. Push came to shove, and the verdict was no. That is not in their job description, to risk their own lives, their own safety unduly. Now, it's not to say that public servants won't. We do. It is a mentality, an idea that we actually embrace, and you have to embrace to be in this type of profession, because it really is giving of yourself, self-sacrifice, sacrificing your safety, your comfort for others. But now to say that is our whole purpose, it's in our job description, that I do take offense to. If I don't deem something safe, why do I have to risk my life, my safety, my family's well-being, if it's not needed, if I don't have to? It does seem a little counterproductive. That'd be saying, having a firefighter who's trained to run inside burning buildings, knows it has the right equipment, refuses to run in. On the face value, that seems like it is someone who is going against their job and training. But we're people too. And it's a very interesting philosophical discussion, and a morals and ethics discussion to have with other responders about our ethical duty to respond. So when can we say no? If we have massive blizzards and snowstorms and icy roads, you have people going off in the ditch all the time, could we say no? There have been many a times when I was working on the ambulance where the conditions were not conducive for my safety. There are whole story logs. I could probably do a whole video series on close calls that I had, where I put my safety secondary, sometimes even third, on the list of my concerns as far as protecting my own safety. But really, when you look down at it, and this is kind of my view on the matter now, especially since I've been in the profession of public service and EMS for 18 years now, if I go down, if I get injured, if I get hurt, you're not only jeopardizing that person I'm currently trying to rescue or save, because if I go down, then someone has to help me, compounding the situation. You're actually hurting multitudes more people. And this is not a very popular belief or opinion for responders to have. I'll routinely get in long arguments with EMS responders and other personnel about the idea of protecting your own safety. I teach whole classes at it at different conferences. One of the biggest ones is, do you really have to drive with your lights and sirens? That is the quintessential picture of an emergency responder. Lights and sirens going 1,000 miles per hour down the road, throwing your own safety second. But the truth is, when you actually look at the statistics and the data, lights and sirens does not get an ambulance there much quicker. There's a lot of other factors that come into play as far as what is your loadout routine? What is your response routine? Do you have where you can shave time off of getting an ambulance out of the garage? Is there a way you can make responders more effective? For the amount of risk that increases by kicking on lights and sirens, the benefit gained is something we don't really talk about. Even protocols don't talk about the benefit gained, the risk-benefit equation. Usually they'll say if you have a chest pain patient, you must go lights and sirens. Well, why? Why am I adding this undue risk to my response to maybe get a little bit of extra time, minutes sometimes, not even that, to the hospital? Instead, we should be training our providers to be better providers so that they can use those extra minutes to help turn the patient around. There was a interesting statistic that I saw where paramedics, and we'll just go any EMS or in general, will only use 80% of their skills on 20% of the calls, saying that we're only really going to have critical patients maybe 20% of the time. But yet, you always see them running lights and sirens, running hot to calls. It's something that as a culture, we need to kind of re-examine and look at closer. We need to start asking ourselves, where is that risk-benefit equation? Why is it that we are expected to die for our community? And it is a very noble ideal of putting yourself before others. I will not at all crush anyone's expectations that they should give totally of themselves for someone else. But the idea that we have to, that's what I'm against. I'm against the idea that we're expected to die for others. Again, if I go down, especially when a lot of these smaller agencies that I've worked for, you're not talking about one person will be adversely affected. It might be a whole community. It might be multiple communities, as many responders and public servants work at multiple different agencies, whether that be fire, EMS, law enforcement. So we might be causing a gap in coverage for multiple communities if we have that medic go down. Of course, the good counter that I've had multiple people counter with is, okay, but how can you live with yourself if you don't risk it? We did get into this profession, into this job, and we stay in it. And I'll preface that. Some people get in it for the money. It's a quick and easy training to get done compared to other professions. It pays pretty good. There are lots and lots of openings. It can help you get your foot in the door to a lot of other medical programs, whether that's being a doctor, I've heard rumors that U of M will actually give you something like 2,000 entry points if you were a paramedic. I've never really actually confirmed that with U of M, but I've heard it from multiple different sources. People have applied to the program and whatnot. They give you additional points for having your paramedic. But a lot of those guys who get in it for those wrong reasons don't stay in it. For the guys that do, that thrill and adrenaline rush, that we make a difference, we matter, really appeals to these people. When I was young and dumb, I will not disagree, I got into EMS because I was enthralled with the idea of high adrenaline, high stress, going full bore, risking everything. Being that Captain America with his bright shining shield, or Superman with his cape. There was that mentality, that hero mentality, that kind of got me into it. But that doesn't last long. That is something that causes a lot of burnout because you tend to take a lot of that, your mistakes, personal. If even your non-mistakes, you have a patient die, you take that personally. I didn't do enough. I couldn't do enough. So you get a lot of burnout. I then slowly transitioned to I make a difference. Now, where I spent most of my time responding, our average transport time to the hospital, or total patient contact time, was about 30 minutes. Now, I'm not going to be knocking doctors. I'm not trying to get in the doctor, nurse, paramedic, in-hospital versus pre-hospital, little debates and fights that come up. But in truth, that 30 minutes sometimes may total up more than the entire nurse and doctor patient contact time. Now, granted, nurses and doctors do a wonderful job. They're treating 10, 20, 30, 40 different people depending on the day, situation, and it can be higher than that, where I'm just treating one. I have one person in front of me, most calls, that's my responsibility. So I found that I could get a better connection with my patients, really find out what's going on with them. Find out if there were other reasons that contributed to their illness, and really have a good one-on-one relationship with the patients. And I really, really enjoyed that. I honestly felt that almost every patient I dropped off, I personally helped them in some way. Whether that was getting them more information, explaining their disease condition to them, comforting them, holding their hand. Sometimes it was as easy as just locking the door and making sure their cat was fed. It's a very powerful connection you get in EMS. But I firmly do believe that you don't have a lot of these old EMSers who still are all about the adrenaline. Granted, it's there. You never lose that love for the thrill of the chase, the thrill of going 100 miles per hour, getting those technical calls, the difficult, challenging, and dangerous ones. We'll always be adrenaline junkies. But there has to be more to it. Again, most of our calls are not adrenaline-based. They're not us going 1,000 miles per hour or staring down death at every corner. A lot of them end up being kind of those mundane, normal runs. Someone feels sick, someone fell, someone's lonely, whatever it might be, kind of repetitive. And you don't feel like a superhero, even though in those people's eyes, we might see it as a simple chest pain. For them, of course, it's a major life-changing, life-altering event. But honestly, did we do anything miraculous or life-saving? No, we probably just gave some nitro, gave some aspirin. So that hero complex that gets some people into it is something that dies out quickly, and you have to find something else to keep you going in this field. For me, again, it is 100% helping people. That one-on-one, helping an individual. Some people I've known, it's a calling. Others I know, they're just really damn good at it, and they love to do it because it's what they feel their purpose on this earth was, which is very, very powerful. And I totally respect those people for what they do. Some do it because they're becoming expertise. They get the additional licenses, they get the additional trainings. And again, awesome that these guys are doing that. They're pursuing this as a career and as a lifestyle. But again, that life risking, I don't believe that's something that you'll be able to last in this career field. So it's something I think we need to stop pushing and expecting for our responders, expecting them to risk their life, possibly even lay down their lives, that's expected for us to burn up in buildings or get attacked by crazed patients or get shot because we're expected to put ourselves in adverse danger and die. I can't buy that for any of the professions, whether it's fire, whether it's law enforcement or EMS. One, there is not the respect for public servants anymore. Back when my dad was a firefighter, even when I first got into EMS, there was a lot of respect for public servants. You might not like them all the time. You might not like the firefighters and the paramedics and the police officers, but you could still respect the profession, and it's just not there. You don't have communities rallying behind their EMS, fire, and law enforcement like you used to. Definitely the pay is not there. We're not getting paid as much. What is there is the increased liability. More and more you're hearing about responders and public servants facing down lawsuits for making a tough call. Agreeably, there was no right answer. Inaction would have been the wrong answer. The public servant, though, had to make a decision, a split-second decision sometimes, that put any other provider or any other person, for that matter, in that situation. Some of them would just crack under the stress, not be able to make a call. And again, not acting is the wrong decision 100% of the time. But now we're having these responders have to answer to court for allegations of stuff that, what did you want them to do? Did you want them to do inaction? Did you want them to sit and do nothing? Again, that is one of the options that could be afforded. So that's why we're having a lot of our public servants fields die out and people not going into them. If it'd be much more different in my thought process if we did have a higher level of respect, higher pay, higher training. The respect alone, especially from the community members, would be paramount to changing my mind that it's expected for us public servants to lay down our lives. And maybe that's selfish of me. Maybe that's just me being kind of the old timer, getting along there in years in response. But I will firmly defend any responders, any public servant's decision to protect their own safety. Because at the end of the day, it is our safety that is the most important. We're taught that day one of these classes. We are number one. Some classes make you chant it. They'll actually chant out, I am number one. I am number one. My safety is the most important. But yet we then get them out in the field and tell them to do the exact opposite. We need to get back to protecting our responders. Will this mean that some patients do die? Yeah, and that is unfortunate. And I am not saying on a general that the responders, if you're a responder, your life is worth more. But as an individual, yes, my life is worth more than pretty much anyone I will be put against to rescue. Not to say I won't do my best and I won't do what I can to save them, but no other professions. We don't expect a plumber to risk his life, maybe by crawling into a confined space without having the proper equipment. Electricians, if they don't want to do live wire work, they don't have to do live wire work. Why is it that for a public servant, we expect them to lay down their life? Again, for what reward? It's not the paycheck, clearly. As public servants are some of the worst paid professions in this nation, especially for what we have to deal with. But at the same time, it's just that respect level. That respect that we mean something to a community is just dying out. I am willing to say it's pretty much gone. Especially if you look at the news in the last few years and potentially the few years coming up, it's not the profession it used to be. It's not what it used to be. So that's kind of my thoughts. EMS safety providers, the election coming up, all kind of tied into one nice little bow. So here we go. We're going to see if this video is any better. Hopefully I can get them both up here in the next week. And we'll see where it goes from here. There was a priest friend of mine who said, you do it once, it's interesting. You do it twice, it's neat. And once you do it 3 times, then it's habit. So we'll see if we get the 3rd one done so I can finally make this a habit. So hope you all stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.